Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and I am so excited to be with y'all this evening. I have a 202 student in the house, and she is going to be interviewing me, kind of turning the tables on me. I'm so excited to have her in the house. If you have a follow-up question to anything that she asks, make sure that you comment, like, share. We are going to be doing a lot of questions tonight. I don't know what the questions are in advance. She is going to be just throwing them out at me in any order, fashion she has. And then on the slide, we also have a couple of my 101 students that just started class tonight. They wanted to stay and play with us in the energy, and they're back there too. So you may get some 101 questions as well. So I am so excited to have everybody in the house. I want to introduce myself to you. My name is Ruth Theresa. I have my own company called One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium here in the Sugar Land area that's just outside of Houston. I work with my clients for a myriad of reasons. I work with my angels and guides to get them different messages about their life, what's going on around them, situations, and giving them insight into what's about to happen for them. If you like my content, please make sure you like, subscribe, tap the bell, and you will get notifications every time I post a new video. Right now, my team and I are working on to post for the next few months one video every day. So that is like so much fun. We've had so many questions. We've started some new video lines, answering more questions, getting you more insight. So if you like this, make sure that you subscribe and like and comment. So, okay, Miss Sharon, are you ready to answer? Throw me out question number one.
Question number one.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of time, when Earth was made, were there ancient guardians or spirits of the lands, and are they still among us today?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I'm getting the number 42. Then there's 42 of these, almost like the way they're saying it is they're almost like angelic creatures is the word or terminology that they're gifting me at that time. And they are kind of like Mother Nature's healers. They're here to help her heal, work through energy, and help us ground to her energy.
And so do they protect the areas that they're in? Is that what they're there for?
They do. They also are associated with grid lines or ley lines in the earth. So that's where they come from.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Why are the lands that the Native Americans considered so sacred that even in the afterlife, they still try to protect those lands?
So the way they're showing me the energy is kind of like if you think about like Arizona, where you have Sedona, Arizona, it's kind of known they have the energy vortexes. Mm-hmm. So where the Native Americans, they kind of pick these energy vortexes to place high energy. So it's not just like they created it. It's like they took advantage of the energy. Does that make sense? Like, okay, I'm going to put my house on the side of the mountain because that's going to be way more cool than having it down in the valley. And so they're putting them on top of these energy vortexes to amp up the energy, kind of like, let me plug it in, okay, to amp up the energy. And so they were taking advantage or working with that energy.
Okay. All right. Well, that kind of leads into some of the questions I have. Are there differences between like vortexes and portals?
Portals are a port, like a door, okay, or a gateway into something. And a vortex is an energy shift, and it could go either way. It could be polarized, so it could go one way, it could go in, or it could go out.
Okay.
So it's both ways. Okay. But a portal is only one direction.
Okay.
To come here.
To come here. So I know that interdimensional portals exist. What happens if we accidentally went into one?
Because it's only one way, you'd hit a door. It's like walking into a door, walking into a wall. You wouldn't be able to enter it and everything else. Now, what you could come out with is you could pick up energy from it. So if you walked into the wall, you would come away with some of the energy of the wall.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So that brings me, and I know everybody's going to laugh, but that brings me to Bigfoot.
Uh-huh.
He's an interdimensional being. He comes through a portal that's a one way from his world to our world, correct? His dimension to our dimension.
he is in a vortex. He can go both back and forth.
So he can go back and forth.
But we cannot.
Okay.
Because his energy is a match for it.
Okay. And so why does he come here? Do they come here on vacation? Do they come here to eat? Do they come here to pray? What do they come here for?
It's more of a ceremonial time. So you're more likely to see them during ceremony times. And it's usually like early spring into like early spring time frame, kind of like the spring equinox. You're more likely to see them during that time frame, or going into kind of the winter or I'm saying like time shift at that time frame. And it's one of those, and they're here to kind of pray. So it's very much a high, I'm saying, a great time for them to come and do that. But you'll also have an uprising at different times when you have aliens come on planet as also using the same vortexes at times, or spaceships.
Okay, because that was the next one I was going to ask about, alien or extraterrestrial portals. Does it go both ways?
Some of them do go both ways, but some of them don't. It just depends on where you're at.
And why are they coming here? To observe?
Because we are kind of quite interesting. Because we're weird. And they're like, oh my gosh, like get a bag of popcorn and look at these crazy people. What are they doing?
Okay. Okay. Time portals. Are there such things? And when they talk about time slips, is that the same thing?
Kind of. There are some really interesting energies with that. When you have time is only an earthly thing. So if you go to another planet, they don't necessarily call it the same way. They don't have it broken down into 24 hours a day, an hour is so many minutes and that sort of thing. It's only an earthly thing that we have here. So that's kind of the interesting part of it. So that's kind of like, this is really interesting. Now they come for many different reasons though.
Okay. So we could walk in like a time slip. You could walk into that and come out the other side.
Some of them you can.
Some of them you can.
Some of them are vortexes, so they go both ways.
Okay.
And then other ones are portals, and they only go one direction. Either they leave here or come here. Like they're only one-sided.
Okay. So how many of these portals and vortexes do we have on Earth?
We have 2,883.
2,883. Wow. Okay. And the other one that's kind of on that same line. Okay, the question she has is, how do you know this information? How do you get this information?
How do I get that information? My
Yes.
angels and guides have that information.
Okay,
My
so they're giving it to you.
My people on the other side hand me the information. It's kind of like the game telephone. Like when you ask the question, they hear the question and then they tell me the answer. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like round robin. Like you're literally, when you ask me, they're hearing it, they're listening, and then they kind of give me the answer back. And so because I'm good at this, I've done it for a long time. So it's like, it's the best way to put it. It's like it just,
Yes.
it's just the way, it's
She
just the
hears
way it goes.
everything from them.
They talk to me a lot.
Yes, they do. Okay. Here's a question from someone in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do poltergeists differ from spirits, and can they do physical damage?
Poltergeist can, because usually it's a spirit that's been amped up or amped up their energy in some way, or that they've gotten hold of like a battery pack. Does that make sense? So like they're able to bring in higher energy.
And that's how they're able to move objects or slam doors.
Now ghosts can learn how to do that as well.
Okay.
And it takes time.
Okay.
But it's one of those, a poltergeist kind of is like, let me do this on big scale. Like, let me amp this up even more.
Okay. Now, is it true, because you see this sometimes portrayed on TV, that poltergeists can actually be a manifestation from a living person?
No.
No. So that's false.
False.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. So it's not really from a living person. It's only a noisy ghost is what it means. Okay. All right, we're going to go back over here. Okay, what are skinwalkers? And are they really among us? And if they see us, will we be cursed by them or will we be haunted by them?
So skinwalkers are alien energy. They are amped up, kind of like a poltergeist, so amped up their energy,
Okay.
and they are taking kind of like taking advantage of the energy in those vortexes areas. The one that if you're talking about like Skinwalker Ranch, something like that, that also is an area where the U.S. government also has some bases underground as well.
Yes. I just recently got Carmen into watching Skinwalker Ranch, so I wasn't surprised she asked that question. But will they follow you home?
They can if they want to.
Will they haunt you then and like try to get in your house or?
No, not really.
Not really?
Not necessarily. That's not kind of their thing.
That's not kind of their thing. They're just protecting the land and protecting the space that they're responsible for.
Right.
Okay. Okay, this question, why has there been so many possessions and attachments more than ever right now? Is it because we're just hearing about it now, or has it always been there and we're just finding out about it now?
So kind of twofold. So
Okay.
yes, we are hearing about it because we've got social media. So we're hearing about it in ways that we haven't heard about it before. People are able to take videos and pictures and kind of post them and kind of like adding to the energy of it. They've always been here. But one of the things that's kind of happened, if you kind of think back in history, because I know you're a spring chicken like I am, we're young, we're so young. So if you think back into like the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, up until like the mid 60s, like this was all, you didn't talk about this. You didn't talk about like, I felt a ghost or I felt this energy or whatever else. And so kind of during that time frame, all of this energy died. Does that make sense? Like the information about it, it's kind of like someone burned the books. There's no information. So they're like, people didn't teach that energy. It's like, oh, it's, it's taboo. We can't talk about that. We can't talk about ghosts. We can't talk about alien energy or anything like that. It kind of died during that time frame. And so it's almost like this rebirth of it coming back out of like, oh, wait, we found the old recipe book and how do we do this or how do we fix this? So that's kind of what they're talking about of like, kind of like their energy or how to do it. But a lot of that is lost energy.
Okay, because there's some people that believe we're near the end times and that the veil between their world and our world is getting thinner. Is that true? Not the end time part, but is the veil thinner?
The veil is getting thinner, and it's getting thinner as we move further and further into the Aquarian age. Okay. Because the Aquarian age is all about air signs and air energy. So you have a lot more Wi-Fi connections. You're having a lot more energy connections. To, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So
yeah,
kind
that
of
makes
like,
sense.
So that sort of energy.
Okay. I have a question that kind of pertains to both Carmen and I. How is it herself and especially her family, they seem to be a magnet for not only regular spirits, but demonic or devil type spirits. And so is there something in her makeup that makes them attracted more to her, or how does that work exactly? So
I'm trying to like, how do I put this into a terminology? So it's just kind of like one of the things that's really interesting about their energy is Carmen and her family, a lot of people that are learning about their abilities and that sort of thing are working on higher and higher energy. And it's almost like your light source is getting higher. Your light source is getting everything else, and you draw in more.
Okay.
And everything else. If you don't have the protection to keep your energy protected, you just draw it in. Okay. So the more you learn about the protection and learn how to keep your family protected and your energy protected, it makes it easier. But we are a light. They're drawn to our energy. Everything is drawn to energy to come to a new healed state, to bring it to a new healed state. And so they're kind of like, I'm searching for someone who can fix me.
I got you.
So I want someone who can balance my energy or help me learn something.
Live people do that too, correct?
Live people do that too, and everything else. So you'll have people that have like unbalanced energy, and they'll always have like a friend that they always reach out to that's balanced, more balanced energy.
Okay. How can we protect ourselves from being attacked by a bad spirit and or something demonic?
So there's a lot of different ways to do it. One of them are kind of amulet stones can help pick up or clear that energy out. Making sure that when you're out and about that you're cleansing your energy as soon as you get home. Kind of going through things, so there's things that you can place around your home to kind of clear your energy as you walked in. Because once it's in your home, it's harder to get out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's harder to fight that energy. So it makes it much more difficult to kind of bring that energy in. So like once you have it in, it's hard to get it out. But if you cleanse it as soon as it's in, it's like it's easier to get it out before it gets all settled in on the sofa or whatever else. It's kind of like I can easily get this out. So cleansing your energy, setting up things or vortexes so you can clear your energy as you go into your house makes it much easier.
Okay. So in other words, don't let them in.
Don't let them in.
Because once you let them in, it's harder to get them out.
Right. And
okay.
I will tell you that more often than not, once people kind of like learn about the energy, they're like, oh my gosh, now I have to cleanse my house. So I'm going to go get a sage stick and I'm going to go do this. And they end up 99.9% of the time, because they don't know how to do it, they trap the energy instead of letting it go. So then they have to call in a psychic to come in and clear the energy because they trapped it. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, I felt the negative energy here and there and that sort of thing. So like you being a 202 student would know how to go cleanse the house compared to someone who hasn't learned that part yet. Does that make sense? So it's like,
that makes complete sense.
So if you do it inaccurately, you end up trapping it. And so it stays longer than it should.
Okay. So if you have that problem, you need to get better at realizing that they're following you or they're attached to you.
Right.
So when you get home, you get rid of them before you walk inside.
Right.
Okay. That makes complete sense. And,
you have a question or you want? Okay. I'm going to answer this one online. Jacqueline Shaw has a question online, and she is asking, what are shadow people? Shadow people can be a combination of two different things. So it kind of just, people are putting it under an umbrella. So shadow people can be a form of an alien that is in the space or in that area, but it can also kind of come in and have a spirit that has a negative energy attached to it. So it's one of the two, and it just depends on where you're at and what you're dealing with. So that's what shadow people are. A lot of people get really scared because they'll feel the energy or sense the energy, and they're not sure how to get rid of it or how to deal with it. And so that's one of the things that a lot of people end up, and then they sage and they end up trapping the shadow people, or they end up keeping that energy there instead of releasing it.
Any other questions on
No, go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this one. I've asked this one before, but for everyone to know, I asked you once before, we can get rid of spirits, but we cannot get rid of aliens. And I asked you why we couldn't get rid of aliens. So tell everyone why we cannot get rid of aliens.
Aliens have a much higher energy, and because it's like they're a higher life form than we are, usually most of them have a much higher energy vortex than we do. It's harder to get rid of.
Okay.
So you can push them off or push them away or kind of that sort of thing, but it's one of those. And then sometimes people have like this kind of strange, weird attachment to that. So that if you were an alien in a past life, you're more likely to draw in that alien energy in this life. I have a lot of clients that have prior lives, past lives, that they were aliens. And so they're more likely to come and be like, hey, how you doing, grandma? What's up? Kind of thing. And so they kind of keep checking in.
I was an alien in past life. So
it happens to a lot of us.
Yeah, so I can kind of understand that. But one of the things that you mentioned to me that you didn't mention is that because they're being created by God, they have free will, just like we do. Right?
Right.
So they can make that choice to come here and I don't know, bother us or
Right.
do what they want to do because they have free will to choose in their
What they
life.
want to do. So it's kind of like, okay, I was born in Texas, but I could move to Arizona, or I could move to Germany, or I could move to Spain. Like, I have free will. Does that make sense? I can
Right.
move. And so the same thing is, if we had the ability here on Earth, like we could go, if we had a place to go where we could go live on the moon, we could choose that. We have free will. So it's one of those, their free will is just to come and visit us. We're very entertaining. If you didn't know, we are quite entertaining.
I'm sure we are. If they have such a higher energy than we do, they probably think we're all just a bunch of idiots running around like little idiots. So
Well,
they probably
we are
find us
kind of
highly entertaining.
we are highly entertaining. We are. And so it's kind of like interesting how we deal with things, how we deal with stuff. And it's kind of like, if it's like as if we went back to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If we went back to kindergarten and just like, like, oh my gosh, so-and-so pushed me down in the sand. You'd be like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? You'd be like, whatever. And that's kind of the way they are with us. It's like their energy is more advanced. So it's kind of like, they kind of look at us kind of like, okay, you're kind of entertaining, kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Since you mentioned the moon,
Mm-hmm.
I asked you once before if there was a base on the moon, and you told me the entire moon
is a base.
is a base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my question is,
have you ever seen it blink?
No, I have not seen it blink, but
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. But I wondered, it affects our tides. So is it the aliens affecting our tides, or is it the actual makeup of the outside of the moon that affects our tides?
It's the magnetic compounds that they used to build it that affect our waves.
And so have they literally been around Earth since it formed?
Just about.
Just about?
Mm-hmm. The Earth is a little bit older than the moon.
Okay. And our government knows they're there, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Parts of our government do know that they're there.
Is that why it's been so long since we've been back to the moon? Did we make an agreement with them that, hey, we'll leave you alone?
We don't have any agreements with them.
We don't have any.
No. But I will tell you that just like we were talking about, like a lot of that knowledge has passed, And so the people that are in leadership now don't always believe in that. They don't always, and sometimes they're just afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that my grandmother passed? How do you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of terrifies them. Like, I don't understand this. So it's like, no, we're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm. But there are aliens living on Earth.
Oh yeah.
Among us.
Yes.
When is the time when we'll be able to know who they are? Will that be in our lifetime?
It could be. I will tell you, so kind of like a psychic side to this is when you get into 404, you'll be able to feel their energy.
Oh.
Your energy has to be light enough and energetic enough to be able to get there.
On the same level that they're on.
Somewhat on the same level.
Well, if they obviously can come here from far, far away, they're way more advanced than we are.
Right. And they also deal with dimensions differently than we do.
Oh.
That's why we don't always see them. Sometimes we just feel them.
Okay. That's interesting. Another question. If you find a portal, can you actually see through it?
If your energy is high enough.
Only if your energy is high enough.
Only if your energy is high enough. So it's kind of like you have to have advanced enough energy to get there to be able to see it.
Okay. So.
And my angel's going off on this. Like, she's like, and you can reverse polarity and all kinds of stuff and flip it around and all. And I'm like, I understand. Okay, I got it. I got it. She's like, and I'm like,
I'm talking to lay people here. Well, when we did the remote viewing, we went to that bridge, and I don't remember the name of it right now. And there was a
vortex
above it. When you go across the bridge to the left, there was like a monastery or something, and there was a vortex. And when people so that was a vortex because it went both ways.
Right. Because
people would become enlightened. They would go in and become enlightened. And when they came out, they were bigger and better or whatever. They were better than them when they went in.
And I'm going to change the terminology because it's not necessarily better. It's like,
Right.
like they've upgraded their energy, and it's
Okay.
not necessarily they're better. It's like I'm more knowledgeable. Like I went through college. Does that make sense? Like I
Yeah.
learned this and I came back. It doesn't mean that they're better than anybody else. It's just one of those, they were enlightened enough to be able to understand the lessons and to get the lessons and to learn them.
Okay.
So they're just kind of smarter, I guess is the best way to put it. They're not necessarily better. It's just like they're smarter. They're able to bring in that energy a lot faster.
Then their energy is higher because of their experience on the other side
Right.
of that vortex.
Right. But they had to have
Okay.
energy high enough to be able to get there from here.
Okay. That's interesting and kind of scary.
It is. It is.
Um,
I have another question from Jacqueline.
okay.
And everything else. Let me see. Jacqueline is asking, is the government really run by reptilian aliens? No.
That was a good question, though.
It is a good question. There are aliens in government. There are aliens that have different types of jobs on Earth. And that's a position that they choose to take.
Okay, so here's a mind blower for you to see if your angels know this.
Mhm.
How many planets have life similar to ours? In our, just say in our galaxy.
Okay. The number's over 2 million. So do you really want me to?
No, you don't have to give me the exact amount.
Okay, because I could.
Right, no. That's fine.
2,470,235. 234.
234. And so there's still people who really believe that we are alone.
There are people that believe that we're completely alone.
And how egotistical is that? I think that's pretty egotistical.
I don't think it's egotistical. I think it's like I'm afraid of it. So if I turn it off or don't admit it, then it keeps it at bay. So it's not. It could be on a few people part. It could be more of an ego thing. But I will tell you more often than not, it's like I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid.
So I'm just not going to think about it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't
I don't have
exist.
to worry about
Right.
it. Do they actually abduct us?
Sometimes.
And is it for our DNA?
Sometimes it's DNA. Sometimes it just depends. There's a lot of different aliens out there. So there's a lot of different alien, you know what I'm saying, like energy out there. So it just depends on what they're trying to do or what information they're trying to gather.
Are we a product of alien intervention? Thousands, millions, whatever, how long ago?
So answer that, ask that question again. One more second.
Did they come here
In the past.
Yes. And alter DNA for us to exist as we are today, to become what we are today?
So I get not necessarily altered, but they also mated with us. So then it made a hybrid. So it didn't necessarily, they weren't like going into a lab and let me take out this DNA and put this DNA in. It was like they inbred with us. Kind of like if you went to Italy and you found a lovely Italian man and you're like, ooh, yummy, yummy, yummy. And you had a child with him. Does that, like now you've integrated the energy. So that's what I'm saying is like they interbred with us. They fell in love and that sort of thing.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
It is.
I always wondered about that because, they talk about that a lot, that they had a lot to do with how we appear today, how we look today, how we think today, all those things.
Right. They do.
Okay. Let's see. Going back to Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an elemental or one of these beings that we talked about that were here at the beginning of time? Does one of those exist on Skinwalker Ranch?
No, it's not one that.
So they see a vortex, or there's a vortex there. Is that an alien vortex, or what kind of vortex is that then?
It's just an energetic, and it's kind of part of a wormhole as well.
So is the difference between a portal and a wormhole?
It depends on how far you're going out, the distance you're traveling.
So if we're going to another universe, we might need a wormhole. I got you. And those work both ways?
Yes. In a manner of speaking, yes. Oh, and Courtney says hi.
Oh, hi. Courtney with a C?
With K.
With a K.
Courtney with K.
Courtney with K. Okay, got to make sure I have the right one.
I understand.
All right.
And I don't know why, but the messages on YouTube are not coming up as fast as some of the other ones. So it's one of those. It's really slow today. Facebook is much faster for whatever reason than YouTube. So.
Oh,
And we have a couple minutes left. We're right at time. So do you have another question? Our last question.
Anybody have a question they would like to ask? Nobody? We can ask about something strange if we want to, Is a chupacabra real?
Yes.
It is. Isn't it an alien pet?
No.
What is it then?
It's a animal that's been on this earth for a long time, but they live underground. And so that's why they're really hard to find.
Okay.
But they have like different energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, and a different, like, and they're not very, you know what I'm saying? Like they literally almost like live underground. So they very rarely come up to the top.
And so that's why they're so elusive.
Mm-hmm.
But they do occasionally come and
they do from time to time, just not very often.
Do they really drink just blood? Or is that a myth?
It's a myth.
That's a myth. I thought so.
They eat bugs more than anything else.
Really?
They eat bugs. Lots of juicy bugs.
Because people
worms.
blame
They're showing
them
me
for
juicy, big, fat, juicy worms. I'm like,
grubs or something.
Everything else. But they will, if they're not able to satisfy on that, then they will turn to other things. Just like anybody else. Like if I ate a salad and I wasn't satisfied, then I could go eat a steak or back and forth.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Not a problem. I thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. I will be live on next week, as far as I know. It's one of those I'm really, really excited about y'all joining me tonight, and thank y'all so much. If you have any questions, make sure you post your question, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And I will see you next Thursday night. Y'all have a great week.